How did you get involved in Croatian folklore music?
A lot of people in the diaspora, like your first moments in folklore is your dad or your mom say, "Hey, I have something like you. I have a great idea. Like maybe you should dance folklore." And it's like, like as a boy, you're just like, I really just don't want to dance. You know what I mean? Like you just don't want to. But and even with tambura, you know what I mean? Like I didn't want to do tambura, I didn't want to do folklore. Everyone wants to play soccer, especially when you're like a young Croatian kid and you're like looking up to people like Luka Modric and all these other great players. But then I started to realize that like I really had like a passion for like playing tambura and how diverse the Croatian folklore, like how diverse Croatian folklore is. Like a lot of people, like when they think of Croatian folklore, they just say tamburica, like tamburashi, like or folklore from Slavonia. That's like their perception. Slavonia, Podravina, that's it. But Croatian folklore is so diverse and like from each region, you can literally go from one selo to the next selo, and they have a completely different costume, different songs, different ways of doing it, and we really and that's partially because of Croatian history in terms of like all the different influences that we had. We had the Habsburg influences in the north. We also had the Turks that were invading through Bosnia and Herzegovina and like into Slavonia. That's actually how the tamburica came to Slavonia, is through like the Silk Road, right? Because it was called the tambur in Turkey, but then when it came to Bosnia and Herzegovina, it became the shargia. So if you guys know what shargia is, it's kind of like a bigger version of of a tamburica, but it's kind of tuned in a really weird way. And usually like they play shargia, and there's also someone playing flute and violin, and people like have a specific dance. If you go to like the regions of like Posavina, like Bosanska Posavina, like that's really common there. But also how how the tamburica actually came to like Slavonia and to Lika, because this is the thing, is that a lot of people go like, why is there tamburica in Lika and then there's tamburica in Slavonia, but then really like tamburica, yeah, now there's tamburica in Zagreb, but if you look at the folklore traditions in Zagreb, tamburica is not really there. It's like, if you actually look at folklore traditions, it's more like clarinet and like accordion and stuff. You know what I mean? And like if you go to Međimurje, it's actually brass bands. You know what I mean? But like how did it go from Lika and then Slavonia and then like Vojvodina, which is like the northern part of Serbia? And that was actually because of the Bunjevci. So Bunjevci, like they're the Croatian the Croatian ethnic group that live in the northern part of Serbia, and basically the etymology of Bunjevac is actually, they came from the river Buna in the city of Mostar. I don't really think the river Buna like exists anymore. I think it like dried up. If anybody knows Herzegovina, it's no surprise. Herzegovina is hot as hell. But basically the Bunjevci, they traveled through the mountains in Lika, like through Dalmatia, through Lika, and they actually stayed in Lika for a bit, and that's how like you have this Dangubica tradition. So you have Dangubica and Samica. Dangubica is like tuned in like D and G, like that's the most common like tunings of Dangubica, and Dangubica literally translates into English as day waster. You know what I mean? Like people play this to waste their day, and like, and basically then the Bunjevci, like some of these tribes or some of the people that were related to the Bunjevci, right? They kept on like they moved forward into Slavonia, right? And then you have this Samica tradition, and it's tuned in E, so it's actually tuned a little bit higher, right? So like my personal belief is that it's kind of like the question, like begging the question of like, does literature influence society, or does society influence literature? You know what I mean? It's kind of like that with
Yeah.
folklore. Like the whole tuning systems of like these different tamburas in the world. You know what I mean? It's the society like placing it on, like, you know what I mean? Placing it on the tuning of the instrument. That's why Shargia is tuned in its own way, and then like you have Dangubica that's tuned in G, and then you have the Samica that's tuned in E. You know what I mean? It's because these different people, they had like a different tone of voice. They had a different range that they can actually sing. So it's really interesting. So, anyways, to go along more on the travel of the Bunjevci. So the Bunjevci, they kept on traveling into northern Serbia, and that's where like they landed. And there there is still like a sizable group of Bunjevci in the northern part of Serbia. A lot of them actually they move back to Croatia. Or they move to other countries, like either around like northern Serbia or like to Canada, the United States, and whatever else. But basically, they transferred the tamburica. But this is the thing, is that a lot of people don't realize that. Well, Croatians do realize, but like you have tamburica, but then when you go to the sea, you have klapa, and you have like if you go to like down south, like towards Dubrovnik or like the southern part of Herzegovina, you have like Lierica and you have Linjo. You know what I mean? And like that's like something completely different. And then you have what's it called? Then you what was it called? Well, you have gaide in like the northern part of Croatia. You know what a gaide is? It's like a bagpipe, like a Croatian bagpipe. But then you have in but then you have in the southern part of Croatia, like in Dalmatia and then also in Herzegovina, you have diple. And like me personally, I love gaide. Gaide is like very beautiful because it's a lot of music playing on the dominant. But then if anybody knows about Herzegovinian traditions and like maybe even like the Dalmatian hinterland traditions of Ganga, like I don't really like Diple because once again, like Ganga, if anybody knows what Ganga is, it's like basically organized screaming, in my personal opinion. But also it's a very beautiful like singing tradition. You know what I mean? Like you have someone like actually singing like this is how my uncle actually explained it to me. I said to him like, what the hell type of singing is that? Like who created that? You know what I mean? Like who thought of that? And he told me that basically what happened is that in that part of Croatia, that's when the Ottoman Turks invaded that area. So basically, if you listen to like really good like either Becharat or like Ganga, you can actually hear that it sounds almost like Islamic in a way, like where it sounds like they're doing like a call to prayer, you know what I mean? Where they're like, Ganga, boya, yate, Ganga. You know what I mean? Like they're like almost doing some sort of call to prayer. And he explained to me that basically that was how they survived under Ottoman rule, right? Is that they would pretend to be Muslim, but then under it all, they were Catholic, you know what I mean? And they were Catholic underneath it. Like they would dress like Muslims, they would dress like everything. In Ganga, they would like maybe do some sort of thing like something about their traditions. They would sing something like their tradition, like my mother went across the road and married my son or something like that. But then all the other people that are screaming in the background, they're laughing at him. You know what I mean? They're like laughing at like what he's saying, like that's preposterous, like no, you know what I mean? And like you can't possibly be talking about Croatia or like independence in Croatia. You know, that's like one theory, you know, like it's kind of like where did the checkerboard in Croatia come from? Like some people say that, you know, you have like between wartime and like peacetime, that's what the red and white mean. And you have some people that say it was some Croatian king that went to Venice and he got back the land from Venice when he played a game of chess. You know what I mean? Like there's lots of different like legends behind Ganga and stuff. But then when you go to like Istria, like that is like completely different because they have like this special flute. I think it's like called a kostanica or something like that. Like but it's basically you have a completely different like scale. You know what I mean? Like a musical scale that you use. You know what I mean? And you can't forget about what's it called in like Lika, like with their frule. You know what I mean? Like their actual like flutes. And it's really interesting. Like Croatia is just so diverse and topographically, but because like Croatia has so many different like the mountains that separate like the mainland from the sea and like all these different like communities, you know, like we have such a diverse like language, culture, and like folklore, and really Croatians should be proud of that. Like that we have like basically we're a country the size of like southern Ontario, or like, you know, we're only about maybe 500 kilometers square, maybe a little bit bigger than that. But like the diversity that is within Croatia, that's what really like attracted me towards like how like I was really attracted to Croatian folklore. And then after that, it was just the Croatian community in Canada is fantastic when it came to like folklore. Like we have so many folklore groups, and you know, festival would come around every year. That would be my favorite time of the year because that would mean I get to play with 8 different folklore groups. You know what I mean? Like just play as much tambura as possible. And then uh yeah, and then after that, like every year, I believe that they still do it. Jeannie Valatic, she actually brings Siniša Leopold, which is the dirigent for the Croatian radio and television tambura orchestra, and also Ivo Ivanchan. He used to be the director of Lado, and but like now he does like these folklore seminars. I think they've also been to Australia. I'm not 100% sure. Like they, like when I talked to Sinisha, he told me that yeah, I've been to Australia, I've been to Malaysia to like play in his, like he was playing like his tambura orchestra, and yeah, and the type of connections that like we had in our Croatian community in Canada really really pushed me to be like, hey, like I can play tambura, oh I can do this, and also now that we live in such like a connected world, like all I need to do is, hey, like I want to learn like a Croatian song, put it in YouTube, then you learn it, you know what I mean? And then after a while, folklore groups would ask me like, hey, can you do some arrangements for us? And you know, like, could you maybe like do this song or that song for us? I'm like, yeah, sure, you know what I mean? And like, you just keep on practicing, and you really like. I just really enjoyed it because I knew that Croatian folklore is something to be really proud of, like being from Croatia, because like you can take an example like China, for example. China during their revolution, they completely destroyed like any culture that they had. They wanted to be one culture altogether. You know what I mean? But Croatia being such a small country, and we have all these different like folklore traditions. But then you go to China and they only have maybe 1 or 2 different like folklore traditions that they have. You know what I mean? And we're such a small country, we have all these different influences, and like even the architecture in our buildings is completely different, and we're such a small country. It's really something to be proud of, and really that's something that really motivated me in learning about Croatian folklore and stuff like that, is that, you know, we're so diverse, and we're so like we have so much to offer the world in terms of like our folklore. That's why Lado is like funded by the federal government, and people actually give money to Lado, you know what I mean? Like donate money to Lado, is because they preserve that culture, and we should be proud that we've preserved like our folklore traditions. And you know, to all those like to all the little kids out there, you know, like you folklore is cool, you know what I mean? You should, like, if you like wearing your checkers at the playground like I did, realize that folklore, it's something to be really proud of. It's something to boast about in Croatia.
Nice.